Welcome to the second episode of NALA Talks, a microlearning series presented by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI Committee of NALA. My name is Christine Custodio-Suero, and I am the chair of the DEI Committee. The DEI Committee works to address diversity, equity, and inclusion to foster meaningful, open, and constructive dialogues throughout NALA, and to celebrate its members and leaders. Joining me today are NALA DEI Committee members Ed Diaz and Sarah Duggan. Today's conversation will focus on social justice. Our guests today are Elizabeth Lizzy Saylor and Sarah Steeley. We welcome both Lizzy and Sarah. Would you please share with us about your background, Lizzy?
Yeah, so I work for Chartier and Niam Fakudza. We are a criminal defense litigation firm. I have been a paralegal now for 10 years. It'll be 10 years in July. And I am also a licensed private investigator.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Sarah Steeley, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of your background.
Hey, so I work at Maxwell Tillman Law Firm. I started as a paralegal in the civil field, and there was a need in the post-conviction department, which is the department that does everything after conviction. I've been there for 3 years now, and I love every minute of it.
Well, thank you so much for that information. We love celebrating our paralegals and the work that they do. And Lizzy, if you wouldn't mind sharing with all of us, what was your path to this type of work in social justice?
So I started out as a legal assistant and kind of worked my way up to paralegal. I began assisting our attorneys at all of our trials. And that's really when I was bit by the bug. My very first trial was actually an exoneration case. We were working on his retrial. Our client spent 9 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. And there was proof that he did not commit the crime. So after working on that case, that's when I really realized how much I loved working in criminal defense, how much I loved helping people, and really realized that there was a need for paralegals like myself who are compassionate and empathetic towards all of those defendants who need our help. And so that's kind of really where I started out. Once I went to my first trial, I was done. I was in love. So from then on, I started attending all of the trials with our attorneys and then started getting into some investigative work as well.
Oh, wow, fantastic. And like you had mentioned earlier, you're also a private investigator. You have that training and background?
Yes, I am a licensed private investigator in the state of Michigan, and that has helped us really with tracking down witnesses and interviewing them and just getting some more information for our cases that some people don't have that background, and I think it's very helpful.
Now, when in the course of your career path did you decide to pursue that private investigation training?
That was actually just a couple years ago that I thought it would start helping. I'd been to a couple conferences and met other paralegals who were also private investigators. And I really didn't even think of that as an option prior. Then I kind of spoke to these other paralegals who were into that area, and I realized how helpful it could be to our firm. So I spoke with our partners and they agreed that they thought that was something that I should pursue. And so I became licensed.
Excellent. So you even have the backing of your attorney and firm to pursue that kind of extra training to help out.
Oh, absolutely. They think it's extremely helpful, and they are very supportive of really all of our paralegals. Anybody that works at our firm, they are incredibly supportive of anything else that they want to kind of pursue.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Sarah, what was your path to this type of work?
So like Lizzy, I started as a legal assistant, and oftentimes in a firm, you will start somewhere and kind of just express your interest in whichever category you want to move into. So I started as a legal assistant for civil, and I loved doing civil work. But when I realized there was a need in post-conviction, I had already been in this social media aspect of true crime and just being super interested in the justice aspect of it. So when I moved over to that side of things, it really unlocked a passion for what we do and how we help people. And I've been doing it for about 3 years now, and I can't imagine doing anything else with my time. Pretty much devoted to the very large workload that we have and the people that we do it for.
Sarah, what types of specific projects do you work on in your post-conviction tasks, and what is the paralegal's overall role?
So in my type of firm, we're small, and my typical role in one day is mostly communication with my clients. I talk to their families, reach out to them, give them specific updates. A lot of my role is small drafting and filing. I assist with going to trial. I assist with finding different evidence and gathering all the documents that we would need for any kind of post-conviction hearing. And most of the time, day to day, it is a lot of communication. All of my clients are incarcerated in the Alabama Department of Corrections, and they require a lot of hands-on discussion and support. So my role, it can be hard at times, but the communication that I'm able to offer them doesn't just come from what I do and who I am to them. It comes from a place of, I care about you as a person, because a lot of the times you wouldn't think of people in prison being the ones that people would care about.
Thank you.
Lizzy, can you please share with us about your work with Innocence Clinics, and what is the paralegal's overall role?
Absolutely. So we have a great working relationship with the Cooley and University of Michigan Innocence Clinics. So they only do post-judgment work. They focus on getting the conviction reversed. Once that conviction is reversed, they contact us. Our job then is to try and convince the prosecutors not to move forward with prosecuting the client again, because a lot of the times they are very determined to do so. If that doesn't work and they are determined to move forward and try them again, then our job is to win their retrial. We're a litigation firm, and we are not afraid to try a case, and quite frankly, we're really good at it. So that's kind of our working relationship that we have with the Innocence Clinics. So as a paralegal involved in those types of cases, not every case that we have that are post-conviction situations like this, not everyone is involved only with Innocence Clinics. We take a lot on ourselves as well. But for those situations, it's a lot of investigative work. So for one of our cases, our client was accused of assaulting a child when he wasn't even in the area at the time. He was actually at work. So my job in that situation was to track down his work records. Some of those situations, it's a little tricky. In that particular case, the employer no longer existed. So it's a lot of tracking people down, trying to figure out how we can access these records. Some situations we have a lot of shaken baby cases that actually aren't cases of shaken baby. So it's a lot of medical record review, trying to find witnesses from years and years prior, looking in old case files. In a particular case, we had a jailhouse snitch. So I was trying to find in old case files from the 90s in Wayne County, every other case where this jailhouse snitch had testified in someone else's trial. So it's a lot of investigative work, is mainly mine. But then also once it gets to trial, I assist at trials. So I am there keeping track of exhibits, witnesses, taking notes, trying to come up with extra questions that maybe an attorney missed. So I've got my hands in a lot.
Now, this question is both directed to Sarah and Lizzy. The type of work you do is so heavy, including emotionally. Let's start with Sarah. What do you do to help yourself, with self-care strategies with this type of work?
Post-conviction work can be extremely heavy, and it feels personal because you are dealing with people, you're dealing with families, and you're pretty much pushed in the middle of the worst thing that's ever happened to someone. But you're also in between, kind of representing who other people would think is the bad person. And you kind of have to separate yourself from the idea that your client is bad and the judgment of others. I think for me, you have to promote and you have to work for a firm that promotes work-life balance. I am a single mother of 3 little boys. I was hired that way, and I told everybody I'm now married to my job. Outside of work, I definitely go through counseling. We give ourselves time after a rough case. We in-house, we speak to each other, we check on each other, and we promote our work life as a family, so we have that support within. A lot of the times when you feel like you've lost 10 cases and you've won 1, you don't know how to celebrate the win because the losses feel so that you feel so much more strong about what you couldn't have achieved. But you have to give yourself the grace and the time to celebrate that win for what it is, and then work as hard as you can to try to get wins for the other ones.
And Lizzy, how about you? Do you have specific self-care strategies to help yourself manage these cases?
So very similar to what Sarah said, especially with the work-life balance. I am lucky that I work for 2 incredible bosses, Mary Chartier and Takura Niamfakutsa. They are so helpful in making sure that we have everything that we need in order to achieve greatness, not only in our work life, but in our personal lives. So that's huge. That's extremely helpful. We have some mechanisms that we use. For example, we have a 24-hour period after our trials, and that is whether we win or lose, we have 24 hours to either mourn our loss or we have 24 hours to celebrate. And then once that 24 hours is done, you pick yourself up and you start working on the next case and you get ready for the next trial. So I think that's incredibly important. You need that time to, especially when you lose, you need that time to mourn. But you also have to realize that you got to keep going. So things like that. Also, therapy is incredibly important. We see some very emotionally heavy things on a daily basis. You have to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your mental health in order to take care of your clients. So it really, you need to be in a great mental headspace. Also, I would say taking a couple days off of trials and getting a massage has helped me greatly. So
Yeah, trials can be a lot of time and energy, and that can take a toll physically and both emotionally. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, this question is also directed to Lizzy and Sarah. This time, let's start with Sarah. So Sarah, what are some things that you have learned over the course of your career that you would tell yourself when you first started?
When I first started, I remember being so nervous to mess up and to fail and to get yelled at. A lot of my clients, they're in prison. Alabama prisons are tough. They're not forgiving. And I was always worried that it would be the worst thing ever if somebody was angry with me. But I think I just, I would tell myself you will get tougher, and they're not angry with you. They're angry at the system that put them there in the first place. And if you give them the support and the guidance that they're asking for, then they will respect you, and the conversations will change. It's been really rewarding to see how my relationships with my clients have grown, and I would just tell myself to be patient and to calm down and to not worry about making mistakes, because mistakes get made. You know, the law's always changing, and you just have to change and grow and adapt with it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And Lizzy, what are some things that you've learned over the course of your career that you'd like to share?
So definitely for me, the biggest thing I think would be to get some thick skin, because working in criminal defense, there are a lot of people out there who do not like that. They have these preconceived notions that anyone who is accused of a crime is automatically guilty. That happens a lot. People think that. And that is not true, because obviously we have a National Registry of Exonerations that has over 3,000 people on it. So what I've learned, so the biggest thing that I've learned is to realize that there's going to be people who are angry at you for what you do, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be compassionate to people who are finding themselves in these situations. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be passionate about what you do and love what you do. You absolutely should be doing all those things. I love my job. I love almost every single person that I have worked with, because you have to realize that there are reasons why people are in the situations that they are in, even if they actually did commit a crime. There's reasons why they are where they're at in their lives. And so I think I was compassionate even when I started, but even more so now. So being compassionate, being empathetic, putting yourself in other people's shoes, really realizing that nobody is perfect. Nobody on this planet is perfect. All of us make mistakes. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Also, organization. Find a way to be organized. So task lists, double check systems, find a way to be organized, because you're going to need it in this career.
Ms. Steeley, we'll take the question for you first. Can you give examples of opportunities for paralegals interested in getting involved in this type of work?
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to start in the paralegal field, one of the best ways to start out for me was to take a paralegal course. I took a certificate program. It's not an expensive program. You know, they help out people from all walks of life, all different financial ability. And once you're done with the program, the programs can be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, and they're offered everywhere. And in Alabama, you don't have to be, certified in anything to be a paralegal. You could just start in a firm willing to give you a chance as, mail clerk, legal assistant, or receptionist, and you can build your way up from there. But when I started with my certificate program, at the end of it, we were offered opportunity to interview for different jobs. I already had my job at the time, but if I hadn't, then it would be a great opportunity. I mean, we were set up with 5 to 10 interviews. We were added to the Alabama State Bar website, and then we were given access to different organizations that would further our learning and career. So, I mean, one of the biggest pieces of advice I would just say to figure out what type of paralegal you want to be, and, kind of focus on all of your energy into finding the firm that fits your personality and your set of skills. They become a family, because paralegalism is a very devoted career. You have to be 100% dive in head first, because it does take up a lot of your time and effort.
Thank you. Ms. Saylor, same question. Can you give examples of opportunities for paralegals interested in getting involved in this type of work?
So my suggestion would be to join local associations, local paralegal sections that are part of these associations. Network. You can never have too many friends in the paralegal world. That way you can learn about all the different areas that you could be working in. You can ask other people questions, how they feel about their job, what is the best way to get into a firm like theirs. So I think networking is huge, but also those sections offer a lot of the times webinars, conferences, those are the easiest way to learn about different areas of the law, to figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. Also realize that you may start in an area of law and that you think you want to be in, and you may hate it, and that is okay. It's okay to try different things. I started out in family law, and it takes a special person, just like criminal defense, it takes a special person to work in family law. So I realized after a few years that was not where I was meant to be. So then I moved to criminal defense, and I fell in love with it. So realize that it may sound great, but then you get into that particular area, you realize it's not for you, so you move on to another area of law. But the best way to learn about those areas of laws and figure out if you really want to pursue it would be to speak to other paralegals who work in that area. Like I said, webinars, conferences, it's an easier way to learn.
Thank you.
Lizzy and Sarah, we know that these types of cases that you work on heavily involve media. What are your experiences with media in these types of cases? Let's start with Sarah.
Yeah, so in 2023, we're all digital now. A lot of my cases have to do with the felony murder rule, which has blown up on social media. I have one very high profile case that's been featured in a Vice documentary. And because of the exposure, there's been outreach from, celebrities on Instagram and Facebook, and it's not something that's easily manageable. And as the paralegal, I have to be as impartial as possible. So media affects me because, as much as you want to jump in and say, that's my client, I support him, I'm doing work for him, I want to be on the front lines, I want to wear the t-shirts, I want to sign the petitions, you still have to pull back because not every case is going to have that media presence. Not every case is going to have people doing GoFundMes and willing to fund their legal fees. You want to show as much support as the paralegal to the case that's from the 80s in the archives that has had it hasn't been brought up in a while, as you will for the one that's been on thousands of TikTok videos. And then I think just one little particular thing about being the paralegal is that you aren't the one pushed to the forefront. You do all this work, you can do years and years of work, but it's not about you, and you have to be okay with that. You aren't the social media star. You're not doing this to put your name out there. You are the silent worker behind the scenes, and that's okay. And I appreciate that media has brought attention to my cases. And I also appreciate that I'm allowed to be behind the scenes.
Thank you, Sarah. And Lizzy, same question. How does media impact your cases?
So while Sarah spoke about the positives of social media and media in general, I have a more negative side of the coin sometimes. So we work on a lot of high profile cases as well. But unfortunately, we are in the age of trial by social media. It should be innocent until proven guilty. Unfortunately, lately, it has been innocent until your case makes the rounds on social media. So, I mean, we really have to combat that, especially because it does affect when our cases get all of these media attention before trial even hits. It can affect, obviously, our jury pools. So that's the issue that we run into. But social media has also helped us in some cases getting the word out, but especially with discovery. There's a lot of discovery that comes from social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. So it can be helpful in a lot of ways, but also it can be damaging to a case when the public doesn't actually have the full story. They just have what the prosecutors are telling people. So it can be negative in some cases.
Thank you, Lizzy and Sarah. On behalf of NALA and the DEI committee, we thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge today, educating us about social justice issues and providing resources. We will be including links that were discussed in today's episode in the show notes below. NALA offers many opportunities for professional development and networking. Please check out our website for more information at nala.org. We thank you for joining us today on the second episode of NALA Talks. Please join us for our next episode of NALA Talks, a microlearning series presented by the DEI Committee of NALA. Until next time.